How's it going, everybody? It's currently December 8th, about 1 o'clock in the morning. Yes, I know. I am awake. Most people would say go to sleep, but not me. It takes me a while to get to sleep, even then I'm still awake after I get home from work. But, I mean, it's the usual, but today was a little more different. Several hours ago, a few hours ago, was December 7th. And if any of you read history, December 7th, 1941 is a day that will live in infamy. Those were the words spoken by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt when he had heard that Pearl Harbor had been attacked by Japanese forces. A couple years ago, actually, I said probably back in 2018, I think it was. Oh yeah, it's actually 2022, so 3 years ago, I had started a project of building the USS Arizona. I hadn't finished it, but then last year I finally finished it, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about her. I wanted to commemorate her. It is the 84th anniversary of the USS Arizona. And when I finally finished it, maybe a day later or two, I wrote a report on her, right on the Arizona. And the first part of it, that might be called the preface, or whatever, or something, or whatever. And so I wrote a report on her. So instead of starting at the beginning, we'll just start from her operational history. And the source I got it from was from nps.gov for the Arizona. So I'll start with her operational history. The construction of the, quoting here, the construction of the USS Arizona BB-39, named for the 48th state in the Union, began on March 16th, 1914, when the keel was laid. After a year of intense labor, it was launched on June 19th, 1915, as the second and last of the Pennsylvania-class battleship. The launching was a grand affair, and Esther Ross, daughter of an influential pioneer citizen in Prescott, Arizona, was selected to christen the ship. The battleship's commissioning took place on October 16th, 1916, under the command of Captain John D. McDonald. The dimensions of the ship were quite impressive for the time. The overall length was 608 feet, or 2 American football fields long, with a beam of 97 feet 1 inch. It displaced 31,400 tons, with a mean draft of 28 feet and 10 inches. The Arizona's 4 shafts were driven by 4 paired Parsons turbines with 12 Babcock and Wilcox boilers that developed 33,375 horsepower, enabling a top speed of 21 knots. The designed complement was 55 officers and 860 men. The Arizona was well armed for the ships of its period. The original armament consisted of 12 14-inch 45 caliber guns, 22 5-inch 51 caliber guns, 4 3-inch 50 cal guns, and 2 21-inch submerged torpedo tubes. It was protected by 18 inches of armor at its maximum thickness. The Arizona and its sister ship Pennsylvania represented a modest improvement of the previous Nevada-class battleships. Length and displacement were somewhat increased, and length and displacement were somewhat increased, and 2 additional 14-inch guns were shipped. The main armament now being arranged in 4 triple turrets. Sorry, I should end it off right there. The main armament now being arranged in 4 triple turrets. On November 16th, 1916, the Arizona departed on its shakedown cruise and training off the Virginia Capes, Newport, and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. 2 months later, it returned to Norfolk, Virginia, to conduct test firing of its guns and torpedo defense exercise. On December 24th, it entered the New York Naval Shipyard for a post-shakedown overhaul, completed by April 3rd, 1917. And that's the end of the quote. And I wrote this bit myself. Between April 3rd of 1917 and December 7th of 1941, there were other historical events that happened, some at the tail end of World War I and after World War I, and later onward. I will also be providing sources for cited pieces, and I put that at the beginning there. If you look up USS Arizona, nps.gov, or NPS history, I guess, that'll bring it to you. This next bit is also quoting from said website. Quote, in February 1929, the Arizona passed through the Panama Canal for fleet maneuvers in the Caribbean. On May 1st, the battleship returned to Norfolk in preparation for modernization overhaul. On May 4th, 1929, it entered the yard at Norfolk for the purpose and was placed in reduced commission until July 1929. During this modernization, the Arizona received a massive facelift. First to go were the traditional cage masts that replaced the fore and aft by tripod types. New 5-inch anti-aircraft guns replaced the outdated 3-inch mounts. New armor was added below the upper decks to guard against the fall of shot-by-angle gunfire and torpedo bombs dropped by aircraft. Extra compartments called blisters were added to the outer hull to increase the ship's protection against torpedo attack. In an effort to offset the additional weight, a brand new power plant consisting of modern boilers and turbines were installed to allow it to maintain normal fleet speed. The engines were upgraded with new geared units, and the original boilers were replaced with 6 Bureau Express 3-drum boilers. The Arizona's fuel capacity was increased from 2,332 to 4,630 tons of oil. On March 1st, 1931, modernization was completed, and the Arizona was placed in full commission once again. End quote. This next part, the day of the attack. Quote, the Arizona's configuration had changed very little since its 1931 modernization. However, in April 1939, in January 1941, alterations had been done to ready the vessel for war. This is my part of it that I wrote myself. Alterations to the Arizona included replacement of guns with larger ones, new guns being installed for greater firepower arc, and others relocated from time to time, as well as increased AA guns added to the Arizona. So the armament, when it was first completed, all that armament was replaced with whole new guns, new armor added in places, new compartments, blisters, to help in the event of an attack. An attack which did come that morning of December 7th of 1941. Battle damage. Quote, "At the time of the attack, the Arizona was moored at berth F7, with the repair ship Verstall moored alongside. The vessel suffered hits from several bombs and was strafed, and then at about 8:10 a.m. in the morning, the battleship took a death blow. Petty Officer Niboro Kanini, I believe, if I'm pronouncing that correct, Japanese petty officer in the Japanese Navy, in a high-altitude bomber, had earned the title of crack bombardier while training for the mission. Kanani was credited with dropping the bomb that blew up the Arizona. The 1,760-pound projectile hurtled through the air, reportedly striking near turret number 2 and penetrating deep into the battleship's innards before exploding near the forward magazine. In a tremendous blast, the Arizona blew up. In an instant, most of the men aboard were killed, including Rear Admiral Icy Kidd and Captain F. Van Valkenburg, if I'm pronouncing his name right. Both posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. The blast from the Arizona blew men off the decks of the surrounding ships and threw tons of debris, including parts, it's a little bit graphic, might be a little bit graphic here, but including parts of bodies all over the harbor. Survivors of the attack also claimed that the Arizona was hit by 1 or possibly 2 torpedoes. The fury of the attack continued unabated, with the Arizona reportedly receiving 8 bomb hits as it sank. Abandoned at 10:32 a.m., the ship's burning superstructure and canted masts loomed through the smoke that blanketed the harbor." End quote. And from here on is my own writing. So I intend to use my model of the Arizona to demonstrate. And I will see if I can point the camera in the direction of said battleship. Let's see if we can do this. Pardon me. The number two turret was located towards the bow of the ship, near its smokestack at the center of the ship. And this is a smokestack right here. The explosion not only ignited the magazine, but also the fuel in the forward section of the Arizona, quote, which collapsed inside the hull and killed most of the ship's complement, end quote. When the magazine and the fuel ignited, it created a massive explosion at the center of the vessel. And if you want to know just how big of an explosion it created, there are videos on YouTube that show the magnitude of the explosion. The Arizona was a total loss, and the only things salvageable were 50 cal machine guns in the main top, searchlights on the searchlight platform, and the low catapult on the quarter deck. It'll be right here. This is where they grab their planes from. and the guns of turrets numbers 3 and 4. 3 and 4. Let's move this aside here. The next few pages on the salvage parts of the Arizona that could be used and attempts to recover the the next few pages speak on the salvage of the parts of the vessel that could be used and could still be used, and attempts to recover the bodies trapped inside the Arizona. Around 105 bodies were recovered, but since the vessel was never raised, priority was to the ships that could be salvaged and repaired, and the bodies had deteriorated to the point of unidentifiable, and requests to remove the rest of the bodies were denied. In 1961, a portion of the Arizona was moved to Waipeo Point, where she now remains, as a memorial to the 1,177 men who perished on that fateful day. Around 330 to 360 men did survive the explosion, but many did receive injuries from the explosion. But they are no longer with us anymore. The last surviving member of the USS Arizona, Lou Conter, passed away on April 1st of 2024 from a congestive heart failure at his home in Glass Valley, California. He was buried next to his wife, Valerie. Many of these men of the Second World War won't be here much longer. Their generation is a generation of heroes. Many who lied about their age in order to serve. Many came home, but many didn't come home. Many are buried on land and out at sea. Whenever and wherever you see a veteran, whether from World War I, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, and many other wars and battles onwards, think of the sacrifice that they gave for this country. They gave their lives to either a grateful or an ungrateful nation. May their sacrifice never be forgotten, for if they are, who will tell those who wish to know? When I started building the model of the Arizona, the Arizona model, I felt it was my duty to remember not only carry on her memory. Sorry, I apologize if that sounds a little contorted, but maybe I missed something there. I felt it was my duty to remember not only carry on her memories, but also the memories of those who fought and died for our freedom and the freedom of others. It wasn't just a project, but a duty to them, a duty to remember those who came before me. Around the U.S., what many might call cosplay, I call it a uniform to remember them. There are many who wear the same uniform of those who served in World War II, not only to be in reenactment, but also carry on their time in history in hopes of bringing others to also learn about history, so that history might also be carried on in the ages to come. And those of us who wear the uniform, whether combat or formal wear, it is worn in commemoration to the men and women of World War II, and we wear it with pride. To the men of the Arizona, we salute you and bow our heads and thank God for your sacrifice to this country and its people. May you be remembered for ages to come. That is my report on the Arizona. Now, some people might ask, what do you mean by, call it cosplay? Well, there are several reenactment groups. Most you might see are for the European theater, and those in Europe, Belgium, Germany, France. Some might be for the Marines. Mine was for airborne. Those of World War II. And when I wear it, it is not just, it isn't for me or anything, but for those men. You know, when you tell people what the date is, or whatever date it is, it could be, in this case, December 7th, or June 6th. It almost breaks your heart just a little bit when people don't remember history. And that was my duty. I believe it still is my duty to tell people about history, to give them a little piece of it. And my hope is a report like this can just give people a little bit of history, just something small. To understand where our freedoms come from, where our thankfulness lies, with those men who, many of them are no longer here now. I just watched a movie just a second ago called Midway, directed by Roland Emmerich. It's a good movie. It tells, again, Midway. It shows the attack on Pearl Harbor and what happened a little bit afterwards. It's telling a story. Now, most people would go on about CGI and all that other crap. I would just ask of those who complain about that is to just look at the story. A lot of these men didn't make it back. Those men who were bombers, who were part of bomber squadrons, torpedo squadrons, dive bomber squadrons, carriers, destroyers, battleships, anything. They won't be here for much longer. So, I hope you all remember who fought for us. I was watching the movie, I was thinking of putting together the uniform, the flight uniform worn by the Doolittle Raiders. Maybe one day I'll put it together. You know, I also saw a video that was talking about how most people think about December 7th, but no one thinks about December 8th. How that day, several recruiting offices were swarmed by many young men. Most would call them boys, but many young boys and men, ranging from young to old. And as it goes on, the coffee shops there were left open for those men, boys and men. And when they were opened, hundreds swarmed their offices, and physicians had to be brought in, extra physicians to handle all of them, and thousands of men had to be turned away. report mentioned that boys who lied about their age. There are such cases who lied about their age so that they may fight their war. A lot of them didn't feel right about staying home. So, in closing, please don't forget these men. That's gonna be it for now. To the men of World War II, actually, let's do this. To the men of Pearl Harbor, may they rest in peace, and may we continue to bring their stories, their sacrifice, whether it be from Pearl Harbor, Midway, Okinawa, Iwo Jima, the beaches of Normandy, Bastogne, or wherever it may have been. Even if we don't look at all parts of history, even if we might even look at a couple. Or if you just want to keep your eyes on one particular event, or if you want to look at one theater, whether it be the Pacific or the European theater, whatever part of history it may be. May we keep history alive and let it be remembered for all ages. Thank you. Thank you to those men, those boys of World War II. May they rest in peace.